The great station hung in the void like a jewel made of light and metal. Concordia Prime had witnessed 10,000 years of galactic history. It had seen wars end and peace begin. It had watched species rise and fall. But today, it would witness something that would change everything. Thomas Chen stood in the center of the chamber. His hands were bound with energy restraints that glowed a soft blue. He was 43 years old, with gray starting to show in his black hair. His engineering uniform was torn and dirty. He had not been allowed to change since his arrest 3 weeks ago. Around him, the chamber rose up in circular tiers, and on those tiers sat the representatives of 1,000 worlds. But only 5 beings truly mattered here. They sat at the highest point of the chamber, looking down at everyone else. These were the Council of Ancients. These 5 species had ruled the galaxy for longer than humans had existed. They were old, they were powerful, they believed they were wise. The Zelnari representative spoke first. Her name was something humans could not pronounce, so they called her Elder Silver. She was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shift between colors like oil on water. Her eyes had no pupils, just deep pools of black. When she spoke, her voice came from everywhere at once. "Thomas Chen of Earth," she said, "you stand accused of the most terrible crime in galactic law. You have destroyed a sacred place. The Temple of First Light on Kepler 442b stood for 7,000 years. It was built by my ancestors when your species still lived in caves, and you destroyed it in seconds." Thomas Chen did not lower his eyes. He looked straight at Elder Silver. His voice was steady when he spoke. "I destroyed it to save my crew," he said. "The radiation from the solar flare was going to kill all 47 people on my ship. The temple was built on the only underground cavern that could protect us. I asked for permission. I waited as long as I could. But you were 3 days away from responding, and my people were dying. So yes, I used the mining charges to break through the temple floor and get my crew to safety." A sound like thunder rolled through the chamber. The representatives from 100 worlds were shouting. Some were angry. Some seemed uncertain. The Zelnari representative raised one long hand, and silence fell instantly. "You asked for permission," Elder Silver said, "and when you did not receive it fast enough for your liking, you simply did what you wanted. This is exactly why humans are dangerous. You are impatient. You are destructive. You think only of yourselves." The human ambassador stood up. Her name was Maria Santos, and she had been fighting for Thomas Chen for 3 weeks. She was a small woman with brown skin and determined eyes. She had barely slept since the trial began. "Elder Silver," Maria said, "please. We understand the temple was important. We are willing to rebuild it. We will pay any price you ask. We will accept any punishment you deem fair." But Thomas Chen saved 47 lives. He made an impossible choice in an impossible situation. Surely that must count for something. Another council member leaned forward. This one was called Elder Stone by the humans. He was from a species that looked like living rock, massive and ancient. When he spoke, dust fell from his mouth. "It counts for nothing," Elder Stone said. "Laws exist for a reason. If we allow exceptions every time someone has a good excuse, we have no laws at all. We have chaos. And chaos is what killed billions in the Dark Ages, before the council brought order." The third council member made a sound like wind through dead trees. The humans called her Elder Whisper. She was from a species that existed partially in another dimension, appearing as a vague outline of light. "The human species has been among the stars for only 50 of your years," Elder Whisper said. "In that time, you have started 12 conflicts with other species. You have violated trade agreements 43 times. You have shown disregard for quarantine zones, preservation laws, and cultural protection protocols. You ask us to make an exception, but we have already made too many exceptions for your kind." Maria Santos felt her heart sink. She had known this was coming, but hearing it still hurt. She looked at Thomas Chen, and he gave her a small nod. He had known too. The fourth council member spoke now. Elder Deep, from an aquatic species. His voice bubbled and gurgled, translated by machines. "We have discussed this for 3 weeks," Elder Deep said. "We have heard all arguments. We have considered all factors. But we must think of the galaxy. If we are lenient with humans now, what message does that send? That humans are special? That humans can break our laws when they wish? No, we must be firm. We must show that the law applies to all species equally. The fifth and final council member had been silent until now. The humans called him Elder Flame. He was from a species that looked like they were made of fire, though they were actually plasma contained in magnetic fields. When he spoke, his voice crackled. "Thomas Chen," Elder Flame said, "do you understand what you have done? Do you comprehend the magnitude of your crime?" Thomas Chen was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, and his voice carried through the entire chamber. "I understand that I destroyed something your people valued," he said. "I understand that I broke your law, but I also understand that I saved 47 people who would have died horrible deaths from radiation poisoning. So yes, I understand what I did, and I would do it again." The chamber erupted. Species from across the galaxy were shouting now, some in anger, some in shock. How dare this human show no remorse? How dare he suggest he would break the law again? Elder Silver raised her hand once more. Silence fell like a blade. "Then you leave us no choice," she said. "The Council of Ancients finds Thomas Chen guilty of violating the sacred preservation laws. The sentence is death. The execution will be carried out immediately and broadcast to all civilized worlds. Let this be a lesson to humanity and to all species. The law is absolute." Maria Santos screamed. She tried to run forward, but guards held her back. Other human representatives in the chamber were shouting, pleading, begging for mercy, but the council members were already standing, already leaving. The decision was final. Thomas Chen stood calmly. He looked up at where the council had been sitting. Then he looked around at all the species gathered to watch his execution. When he spoke, his voice was amplified so everyone could hear. "My name is Thomas Chen," he said. "I am a human. I am an engineer. I am a father to 2 daughters back on Earth. I am a husband to a wife who I love more than life itself. And I am about to die because I chose to save my crew instead of letting them die to protect an empty building." He paused. The entire chamber was silent now. "I came to the stars with hope," Thomas Chen continued. "I believed we would find friends out here. I believed we would find species who valued life as we do. I believed we would find wisdom and kindness among the ancient races." He looked directly at where the council had been. "I was wrong," he said quietly. "You value your rules more than life. You value your buildings more than people. You value your pride more than justice. And now you will kill me to prove a point." The guards were moving toward him now. Energy weapons were being charged. "But here is what you need to understand," Thomas Chen said, and now his voice was hard as steel. "You think you are teaching humanity a lesson. You think you are showing us our place in your galactic order. You think killing one human will make the rest of us obedient." He smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You have no idea what you have just done," Thomas Chen said. "We came to you in peace. We came seeking friendship and understanding. We tried to follow your rules even when they made no sense to us. We accepted your judgment even when it was harsh. We hoped that, with time, you would see us as equals." The guards grabbed his arms now. They were leading him toward the execution platform. "But you have shown us the truth," Thomas Chen called out as they dragged him away. "The galaxy does not respect peace. It does not respect hope. It does not respect anything except power. Well, you are about to learn what happens when you push humans too far. You are about to learn what we are really capable of when you take away our hope." His voice echoed through the chamber as they forced him onto the platform. "My death will not be the lesson you think it is," Thomas Chen said. "It will be the beginning of something you cannot imagine. You think you rule the galaxy. You think your 10,000 years of history makes you untouchable. But history is written by the survivors, and you have just made sure that humans will survive at any cost." Elder Silver's voice cut through the chamber. "Execute him," she said. The energy beam was instant. Thomas Chen did not scream. He simply stopped existing. His body converted to light and ash in a fraction of a second. The chamber was silent. Maria Santos fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. Around her, the other human representatives stood in shock. This could not be happening. This could not be real. But it was. The broadcast went out across the galaxy. On 1,000 worlds, 1 billion screens showed the execution of Thomas Chen. The council wanted everyone to see. They wanted everyone to understand. Break our laws, and this is what happens. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter why you did it. The law is absolute. On Earth, in a small house in California, a woman named Lisa Chen watched her husband die on a screen. Her 2 daughters were crying beside her. The older one, Jennifer, was 15. The younger, Sarah, was 12. They had said goodbye to their father 3 months ago when he left for the colony mission. They had expected him back in 2 years. They would never see him again. Lisa Chen sat very still. She was not crying. She was beyond crying. She was staring at the screen with eyes that saw nothing. Her mind could not process what had just happened. The galaxy had killed her husband for saving people. The council had executed him for being a good man. Something inside Lisa Chen broke in that moment. Something inside millions of humans broke at the same moment. All across Earth and its colonies, people watched. They saw Thomas Chen die. They heard his final words. And they understood. The galaxy had made its choice. The council had shown what it truly valued. And humanity would never forget. In the government buildings of Earth, emergency meetings were already beginning. Military commanders were being called in. Scientists were being pulled from their beds. Engineers were being summoned to secret facilities. On the moon, in a bunker that most people did not know existed, a man sat in a command center. His name was General Marcus Wells, and he was in charge of Earth's defense forces. He had been a soldier for 40 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He thought he had seen everything. He had been wrong. General Wells watched the execution 3 times. Then he picked up a secure phone and made a call. "This is Wells," he said. "Execute Protocol Omega. Authorization code Red Sky Dawn. All hands on deck. Everything we have. Everything we can build. I do not care what it costs. I do not care how long it takes. The Council just made the biggest mistake in galactic history, and we are going to make sure they understand exactly what that mistake was." He hung up the phone. Then he sat back in his chair and stared at the screen where Thomas Chen had died. "They wanted to teach us a lesson," General Wells said quietly to the empty room. "Well, class is in session, and humanity is a very fast learner. All across human space, the machinery of war began to turn. Quietly at first. Secretly. But turning nonetheless. The Council had executed one human to make a point. They were about to learn that humans had a point to make too. And when humans made a point, they did not use words. They used fire. The trial was over. The execution was complete. Justice, the Council believed, had been served. They had no idea that justice was only just beginning. 3 months had passed since the execution. 3 months since Thomas Chen had been turned to ash in front of the entire galaxy. 3 months since humanity had watched one of their own die for saving lives. And in those 3 months, something strange had happened. Earth had gone quiet. On Concordia Prime, Elder Silver stood in her private chambers, looking at reports that made no sense. The Zelnari did not feel fear the way humans did, but what she felt now was close enough. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "They have recalled every ambassador," her aide said. The aide was young, only 300 years old. "Every human diplomat on every council world has returned to Earth." They gave no explanation. They simply left. Elder Silver's colors shifted to a dark purple, a sign of concern among her people. "What about trade?" she asked. "Stopped completely," the aide replied. "All human merchant ships have returned to their own space. All trade agreements have been quietly terminated. They are not renewing any contracts. They are not negotiating new ones. They are simply withdrawing." Elder Silver moved to the window of her chamber. Outside, space stretched forever, filled with stars and ships and the traffic of 1,000 civilizations. But somewhere out there, in a small corner of the galaxy, humanity was doing something. "What about communications?" Elder Silver asked. The aide hesitated. "That is the strangest part," he said. "Human colonies are still communicating with each other. We can detect their signals, but they have stopped all outgoing communications to non-human species. Every message we send goes unanswered. Every attempt to contact them is ignored. It is as if we no longer exist to them." Elder Silver was quiet for a long moment. "They are angry," she said finally. "They will calm down. Give them time." But even as she said it, she was not sure she believed it. On the other side of the galaxy, Elder Stone was having similar concerns. He sat in a chamber carved from a single massive crystal, surrounded by his advisors. They were discussing the human problem. "Our intelligence says they are building something," one advisor said. "Energy signatures from the Sol system have increased by 300%. Industrial output is at levels that should be impossible for a species their age." "Building what?" Elderstone rumbled. "We do not know," the advisor admitted. "They have closed their borders completely. Any ship that enters human space without permission is warned once, then destroyed if it does not leave immediately. We lost 3 intelligence drones last week." Elderstone ground his rocky fists together, making a sound like boulders crushing. "They cannot threaten the Council," he said. "We have been the power in this galaxy for 10,000 years. They have been in space for 50. They are children throwing a tantrum." But another advisor spoke up, his voice uncertain. "Elderstone, perhaps we should consider that we may have been too harsh. The human did save his crew. Perhaps an apology." "No," Elderstone said, his voice final as a mountain. "We do not apologize for upholding the law. The humans will learn their place, or they will learn to fear us. Send a formal request for them to explain their recent behavior. If they do not respond within 1 week, we will consider it an act of disrespect." The message was sent. It was never answered. Elder Whisper floated in her meditation chamber, existing partly in this dimension and partly in another. She could see things that others could not. She could sense patterns in the universe that were invisible to most, and right now, those patterns terrified her. Something was coming. She could feel it the way a human might feel a storm approaching. The fabric of space around human territory was changing, warping, being twisted by something powerful. She called for an emergency council session. The 5 council members met in a secure virtual space, their consciousnesses linked across the galaxy. This was how they usually discussed sensitive matters. "I sense danger," Elder Whisper said without preamble. "The humans are doing something that will change everything. We must act now, before it is too late." "Act how?" Elder Deep asked, his voice bubbling. "We have tried to contact them. They ignore us. We cannot force them to communicate. We could send ships," Elder Flame suggested, his plasma body crackling. "A show of force. Remind them who holds power in this galaxy." "No," Elder Silver said quickly. "That would be a mistake. If we send warships to human space, it becomes an act of war. And despite everything, we do not want war." "Why not?" Elder Stone asked. "If they threaten us, we crush them. It is simple." Elder Whisper's form flickered. "Because I have been studying human history," she said quietly. "I have read everything we have about them. And I have learned something troubling. Humans do not think like we do. When we face a threat, we calculate risks and benefits. We act rationally. But humans? When humans are pushed too far, when they feel they have nothing left to lose, they do not calculate. They simply fight. And they do not stop fighting until they win or until they are dead." "Primitive," Elder Stone scoffed. "Perhaps," Elder Whisper agreed. "But effective. In their short history, humans have fought hundreds of wars. They have nearly destroyed themselves multiple times. But they always survive. And every time they fight, they learn. They adapt. They improve. They have no fleet that can challenge us," Elder Flame said. "Our ships are advanced by thousands of years compared to theirs." "That was true 3 months ago," Elder Whisper said. "But what about now? What have they been building in their silence? What have they been learning?" The council was quiet. Finally, Elder Deep spoke. "Perhaps we should send a probe," he suggested, "just to observe. We do not need to enter their space. We can watch from the border, see what they are doing." The others agreed. It seemed reasonable. It seemed safe. They sent a Zelnari probe to the edge of human space. It was a sophisticated machine, nearly invisible, designed to observe without being detected. It cost more than most small ships. It lasted 17 seconds. The probe entered the border region around human space and immediately began scanning. It detected massive energy signatures, shipyards working at incredible speeds, something that looked like a fleet under construction. But the numbers were wrong. There were too many ships. Far too many. The probe sent its data back to the Zelnari homeworld. Then it died. There was no warning, no message, no threat. One moment the probe existed, and the next moment it was scrap metal. torn apart by weapons that had locked onto it the instant it entered the scanning range. Elder Silver reviewed the data that the probe had managed to send before its destruction. What she saw made her colors shift to white, the Zelnari equivalent of shock. "This is not possible," she said to herself. "This cannot be real." But it was real. In the 3 months since Thomas Chen's execution, humanity had not been idle. They had not been grieving. They had been working. On Earth, General Marcus Wells stood in a command center that had been built in secret over the past decades. It was deep underground, protected by miles of rock and advanced shielding. In this room, the future of humanity was being planned. "Status report," Wells said. A young officer stood and read from her tablet. "All shipyards operating at maximum capacity, sir. We have completed the first wave of the fleet. 12,000 ships of the new design. The second wave is 60% complete. That will add another 20,000. Wells nodded. Before Thomas Chen's execution, Earth's entire military fleet had been maybe 200 ships. They had been designed for exploration and defense. They had been built with hope. These new ships were different. These were built with purpose. "What about the weapon systems?" Wells asked. Another officer responded. "The quantum disruptors are installed on all frontline vessels, sir. Testing shows they can punch through Zelnari shields like they are not even there. The AI cores are operational and learning fast. Each ship is smarter than the entire Council fleet combined." "Good," Wells said. "And the special projects?" A scientist stood up. She looked tired. She had been working 20-hour days for 3 months. "Project Daybreak is ready, sir," she said. "We have successfully weaponized stellar manipulation technology. We can trigger solar flares, increase solar radiation, or if necessary, we can make stars go nova." The room was quiet for a moment. "And the ethical review?" Wells asked quietly. "Passed, sir," the scientist said, "with the understanding that this weapon will only be used on uninhabited systems or as an absolute last resort. We are not monsters." "No," Wells agreed. "We are not. But the Council needs to learn that we are not victims either." He turned to face the room. 3 months ago, they killed Thomas Chen. Wells said, "They killed him for being a good man, for saving lives. They killed him and broadcast it to the galaxy as a warning to us. They wanted to teach us our place." He paused. "Well, they taught us something," Wells continued. "They taught us that peace is only an option when both sides want it. They taught us that the galaxy respects strength, not kindness. They taught us that if we want to survive out here, we cannot rely on anyone but ourselves." Every person in the room was listening intently. "In 1 week, we move," Wells said. "We hit them everywhere at once. Every Council military installation, every shipyard, every defensive platform. We show them what happens when you execute a human for doing the right thing." "Sir," one of the officers said carefully, "what about civilian casualties?" Wells's face hardened. "We avoid them at all costs," he said firmly. "We are not like them. We do not punish the innocent for the crimes of their leaders. Every target has been carefully selected to minimize collateral damage. Our weapons are precise. Our intelligence is good. We will hurt their military, their government, their ability to enforce their will on the galaxy. But we will not become murderers." He looked around the room. "We are going to war," Wells said. "But we will be the good guys in this war. We will be the ones fighting for justice, for Thomas Chen, for every human who has been pushed around by the Council's rules, for every species who has suffered under their so-called order." Another officer raised his hand. "Sir, what about after? Even if we win, what then?" Wells smiled grimly. "Then we make sure this never happens again," he said. "We tear down their council. We build something better, something fair, something where no one gets executed for saving lives." The room erupted in determined nods and quiet agreements. Outside Earth, in the darkness of space, thousands of ships were gathering. They were painted black, nearly invisible against the stars. They carried weapons that the Council had never seen. They were crewed by people who had watched Thomas Chen die and decided that enough was enough. On Mars, entire factories had been converted to war production. On the Moon, training facilities were running day and night. In the asteroid belt, miners had become weapon manufacturers. Humanity had been quiet for 3 months, but they had not been idle. Back on Concordia Prime, Elder Silver stood before the other Council members. They had finally agreed to meet in person to discuss the human problem. "I propose we send a diplomatic mission," Elder Silver said. "We tell them that we understand they are upset. We offer to discuss the matter. We find a peaceful solution." "No," Elder Stone said flatly. "That would be showing weakness. The humans need to understand that the Council does not negotiate under pressure." "What pressure?" Elder Deep asked. "They have been silent. They have not threatened us. They have simply withdrawn from galactic affairs." "Exactly," Elder Flame said. "And that withdrawal is itself a threat. They are showing disrespect. They are making the Council look weak to other species." Elder Whisper, who had been quiet, finally spoke. "I had a vision," she said softly. "I saw fire. I saw Council worlds burning. I saw our ships destroyed. I saw everything we have built crumbling to ash." The other Council members stared at her. "You are being dramatic," Elder Stone said. "Humans are not capable of threatening us. They are too young, too weak, too primitive." "Are they?" Elder Whisper asked. 3 months ago, I would have agreed with you. But now, we do not even know what they have been doing. We do not know what they have built. We are blind, and we are arrogant, and that combination will destroy us." "Enough," Elder Silver said. "We will observe them for another month. If they make any aggressive moves, we will respond appropriately. Until then, we wait." It was the wrong decision. They had already waited too long. In human space, General Wells looked at a countdown clock on the wall. 7 days, 168 hours. Then the galaxy would learn what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. "Sir," an aide said quietly, "are you sure about this? Once we start, there is no going back." Wells nodded slowly. "I am sure," he said. "They made their choice when they killed Thomas Chen. They declared that human life is worth less than their rules. Now, we show them what human life is really worth. Now we show them what we will do to protect our own." The aide left. Wells stood alone in the command center, looking at screens showing the fleet. Thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands of warriors, all ready, all waiting. "This is for you, Thomas," Wells said quietly to the empty room. "You saved 47 people. We will make sure your death saves billions." The countdown continued. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The silence was about to end. And when it did, everything would burn. The countdown reached 0 at exactly midnight, Earth Standard Time. General Wells stood in the command center, his hand hovering over a single button. Around him, hundreds of officers waited in tense silence. This was the moment everything changed. Wells pressed the button. Across 70 star systems, human fleets appeared. They did not jump in slowly. They did not announce themselves. They simply materialized out of nowhere, their new phase shift drives allowing them to bypass normal space entirely. One moment the space around Council military stations was empty. The next moment it was filled with thousands of human warships. On the Zelnari military station orbiting their home world, alarms screamed. Admiral Kexral, a veteran of 300 years of service, stared at her displays in disbelief. "How many ships?" she demanded. 2,000, her sensor officer said, his voice shaking. "No, wait. 3,000. The count keeps going up. They are still appearing. Impossible," Kexral said. "Humans do not have 3,000 ships. They barely have a fleet at all." "They do now," the officer replied. The human fleet did not attack immediately. Instead, every Council station, every Council warship, every Council defense platform received the same message at the same moment. It was broadcast in every known language. It was impossible to ignore. The face on the screen was General Marcus Wells. He looked tired. He looked angry. But most of all, he looked determined. "I am General Marcus Wells of the United Earth Defense Force," he said. 3 months ago, the Council of Ancients executed Thomas Chen, a human engineer who saved 47 lives. You killed him for breaking your law. You broadcast his execution to teach us a lesson." Wells paused. "We learned," he said quietly. "We learned that the galaxy does not value life. We learned that your laws matter more than people. We learned that peace is only an option when you allow it. So we stopped asking for permission. We stopped trying to fit into your galactic order. We spent 3 months preparing to teach you a lesson of our own." On screens across 70 star systems, Wells leaned forward, Effective immediately. All Council military forces will stand down and surrender. All weapons will be powered down. All shields will be lowered. You have 1 hour to comply. If you do not, we will destroy every military asset you have. We will not attack civilians. We will not target cities. But your ability to wage war will end today. Admiral Kexral felt something she had not felt in centuries. Fear. This is insane, she said. Launch all fighters. Charge all weapons. We can. The lights went out. All across the station. Every system failed simultaneously. Emergency power kicked in after a few seconds, but it was too late. The main computers were down. The weapons were offline. The shields were gone. What happened? Kexral demanded. Unknown, Admiral, her chief engineer said, desperately working at a manual console. It was like something reached into our systems and just turned everything off. Outside the station, a single human ship drifted closer. It was small, barely larger than a shuttle. But from it, a new message came. That was a demonstration, a calm voice said. Our AI systems are approximately 1,000 years more advanced than yours. We can take control of your ships, your stations, your weapons at any time. We choose not to because we want you to surrender willingly. But make no mistake, you have already lost. The question now is whether you lose with honor or with destruction. Admiral Kexral looked at her crew. They were terrified. She had seen soldiers face death with courage. But this was different. This was not battle. This was not war as they knew it. This was something new and horrible. She made her decision. Open a channel, she said quietly, to all Zelnari forces in this system. This is Admiral Kexral. Stand down. Power down all weapons. Lower all shields. We surrender. Her officers stared at her in shock. Admiral, we cannot. We can and we will, Kexral said firmly. Look at the screens. Look at what they have. We are outmatched in every possible way. If we fight, we die. And we die for nothing because we will lose anyway. I will not throw away lives for pride. Across the Zelnari homeworld's orbital space, dozens of military stations and hundreds of ships began powering down. The surrender was happening, but not everywhere. On the Kryn military world of Fortress Gamma, Commander Jal watched the human fleet appear and laughed. The Kryn were a warrior species. They had fought in every major galactic war for 5,000 years. They did not surrender. Humans think they can threaten us, Jal growled. Show them what Kryn warriors do to threats. All ships, attack formation. All planetary defenses, fire at will. His officers moved to obey. Within seconds, hundreds of Kryn warships were launching from the fortress world. Thousands of ground-based cannons were powering up. This was what the Kryn lived for. This was battle. The human fleet did not even slow down. The Kryn ships opened fire first. Massive plasma cannons, each capable of destroying a city, fired in perfect synchronization. The beams crossed space at the speed of light, enough firepower to crack a moon. The human ships simply were not there when the beams arrived. They had moved, but not like ships usually moved. They had not accelerated or turned. They had simply existed in one place, and then existed in another place. The phase shift drives allowed them to dodge attacks by temporarily leaving normal space. The Kryn fired again, and again. Every shot missed. Then the humans fired back. From the lead human ships, beams of impossible light struck out. They were not lasers. They were not plasma. They were something new. Quantum disruptors. Weapons that did not just damage matter but disrupted the very bonds holding atoms together. Where the beams touched Kryn ships, those ships simply came apart. No explosions. No fire. Just matter ceasing to be solid and becoming a cloud of individual atoms. In 10 seconds, 100 Kryn warships died. Commander Jal watched in horror as his fleet was destroyed. Each ship lasted less than a second once targeted. The human weapons were impossibly precise and impossibly deadly. Fall back, Jal ordered. Retreat to the planet's defense perimeter. But there was nowhere to retreat to. The human fleet was everywhere. They moved faster than Kryn ships could track. They fired with perfect accuracy. They were ghosts that killed with a touch. The orbital bombardment platforms were next. These were massive structures, built to defend against entire fleets. Each one carried enough firepower to sterilize a continent. The Kryn had believed them to be invincible. They were wrong. The human ships bypassed the platform's shields entirely, phasing through them like they were not even there. Then, from inside the shield perimeter, they fired. The platforms came apart like the ships had, reduced to atomic clouds in seconds. Within 5 minutes of the battle starting, Fortress Gamma's entire orbital defense network was gone. Zhal stared at his screens in disbelief. His fleet was destroyed, his defenses were gone, and the human fleet had not even slowed down. They were still coming, still moving toward the planet. A message came through. "Commander Zhal," a human voice said calmly. "You have one more chance to surrender. We do not want to attack your planet. We do not want to kill your people. But we will destroy every military target you have. Stand down now, or watch everything you built turn to dust." Zhal's pride warred with his sense of duty. Pride said to fight to the end. Duty said to save his people from pointless death. Duty won. "I surrender," Zhal said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. "All Kryn forces, stand down." Across 70 star systems, similar scenes were playing out. Some council forces surrendered immediately. Others tried to fight. All of them lost. The humans were relentless. They were everywhere. They moved like nothing the council forces had ever seen. They fought with weapons that seemed like magic. And most terrifying of all, they fought with surgical precision. On the aquatic world of Deephold, the council's main naval base, Elder Deep himself watched the battle from his underwater palace. Human ships had appeared in orbit and demanded surrender. The defense fleet had refused. It was a mistake. The human ships deployed what they called precision bombardment drones. These were small, intelligent weapons that could phase through shields and water, penetrating deep into the ocean. Each drone had a single target programmed into it. Each drone was perfectly accurate. In the space of an hour, every military submarine, every underwater weapons platform, every naval base on Deephold was destroyed, but not a single civilian structure was touched. Not one city was damaged. The humans avoided collateral damage with impossible precision. Elder Deep rose to the surface, his massive form breaking through waves. Above him, human ships hung in the sky like dark stars. "How?" he asked the empty air. "How did they become this powerful in just 3 months?" A human ship descended closer. A voice answered his question. "You think 3 months is all we had?" The voice said. "We have been preparing for this possibility for decades. We hoped we would never need it. We hoped the galaxy would be friendly. But we are not stupid. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. And you gave us the worst." Elder Deep felt something he had not felt in millennia. Shame. "We will surrender," he said quietly. "We know," the human voice replied. "We already hacked your defense network. We have been waiting for you to make the right choice." On Concordia Prime, the council was in chaos. Elder Silver stood in the emergency meeting chamber, watching reports flood in from across council space. Everywhere, human fleets were appearing. Everywhere, council forces were being destroyed or surrendering. "This is impossible," Elder Stone roared. "They cannot attack 70 systems at once. They cannot have enough ships." "But they do," Elder Flame said, his plasma form flickering with distress. "The reports are clear. They have thousands of ships, tens of thousands, maybe more. And they are all using technology we do not understand." Elder Whisper's form was barely visible. She was so distressed. "I told you," she said quietly. "I warned you. But you did not listen. What do we do?" Elder Deep's voice came through the communication system. "I am surrendering Deephold. I will not watch my people die for a battle we cannot win." "No," Elder Stone said. "We cannot surrender. We are the Council. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We cannot let humans dictate terms to us." Elder Silver's colors shifted rapidly, showing her internal conflict. "We do not have a choice," she said finally. "Look at the reports. We have lost 70% of our military strength in the first hour. Our ships cannot fight theirs. Our weapons cannot hit them. Our defenses cannot stop them. If we keep fighting, we will lose everything." "Then we use the void engines," Elder Stone said. The chamber went silent. The void engines were the Council's ultimate weapon. Ancient technology, more powerful than anything else in the galaxy. Weapons that could collapse stars, destroying entire solar systems. You cannot be serious, Elder Deep said. The void engines have not been used in 5,000 years. They are forbidden. Desperate times, Elder Stone said grimly. Elder Whisper shook her head. If we use the void engines against the humans, we will not win. We will only ensure that both sides are destroyed. Is that what you want? The end of everything? Better that than submission, Elder Stone said. But Elder Silver had made her decision. No, she said firmly. We will not use the void engines. We will not destroy ourselves out of pride. The humans have beaten us. We must accept that and negotiate the best terms we can. They will not negotiate, Elder Flame said. They want revenge, as if summoned by his words. Every screen in the chamber lit up. General Wells appeared on all of them. Council of Ancients, Wells said. Your military forces are defeated. Your fleets are destroyed. Your defenses are gone. But we are not here to conquer you. We are not here to enslave you. We are here to end your reign. Elder Silver stepped forward. General Wells, she said. What do you want? Wells looked at her with hard eyes. I want justice, he said simply. I want a galaxy where no one is executed for saving lives. I want a galaxy where all species are equal, not just the old ones. I want a galaxy where the rules make sense and apply to everyone fairly. He paused. The Council of Ancients is dissolved, Wells said, effective immediately. You will announce this to the galaxy. You will surrender all authority, and you will help us build something better to replace it. And if we refuse? Elder Stone asked. Wells smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we make your homeworlds look like the systems we have already attacked. Do you want that? Do you want to watch your people suffer because of your pride? The council members looked at each other. They had no good options left. We need time to discuss. Elder Silver began. You have 1 hour, Wells interrupted. After that, we start hitting government buildings. We will avoid civilians as always, but we will take apart everything you have built, piece by piece, until you agree. Choose now. The screen went dark. The council sat in silence for a long moment. 10,000 years of rule, ending in an hour because of one human's execution. It seemed impossible. It seemed like a nightmare, but it was real. Finally, Elder Silver spoke. We surrender, she said quietly. We will announce the dissolution of the council. We will cooperate with the humans. Elder Stone stood abruptly. I will not be part of this, he said. I will not surrender to children. He left the chamber. The others watched him go. Let him be angry, Elder Deep said. He will accept reality eventually, or he will be irrelevant. Elder Silver looked at the others. How did we get here? She asked quietly. How did we go from being the wise rulers of the galaxy to defeated in a single day? Elder Whisper answered, her voice sad. We got here because we valued our laws more than justice. We got here because we thought our age made us right. We got here because we killed a good man to prove a point. She paused. We got here because we forgot that might and right are not the same thing, and the humans just reminded us of that fact. The hour passed. The council announced their surrender. Across the galaxy, 1 billion beings watched in shock as the rulers of 10,000 years admitted defeat to a species that had been in space for only 50. The burning had begun. The old order was ending, and humanity was just getting started. The surrender was supposed to end the war. General Wells had believed that once the council admitted defeat, the galaxy would begin to heal. He had been wrong. In the weeks following the council's announcement, the galaxy fractured. Some species welcomed the change. Others feared it. And some saw opportunity in the chaos. The Threx Empire, a militant species that had chafed under council rule for centuries, immediately declared independence and began attacking neighboring species. The Mindari Collective, seeing the council's weakness, started expanding into territory that had been off-limits for millennia. Dozens of minor conflicts erupted across the galaxy. General Wells stood in the command center on Earth, watching reports flood in. His hair had gotten grayer in the past weeks. He slept maybe 3 hours a night. This is not what we wanted, he said to Admiral Chen, who stood beside him. She was Thomas Chen's cousin, and she had volunteered for military service the day after the execution. We broke the old system, Admiral Chen said, but we did not build a new one fast enough. Nature abhors a vacuum, General. We created a vacuum of power. Wells nodded grimly. She was right. The human fleets were spread thin, trying to prevent wars from breaking out. They were not conquerors. They were not occupiers. But someone needed to keep order until the new system was in place. Status of the diplomatic mission? Wells asked. Ambassador Santos is on Concordia Prime now, an aide replied. She is meeting with representatives from 200 species. They are trying to draft a new galactic charter. 200 species out of thousands, Wells said. We need more participation. Many species are afraid to come, the aide said. They are afraid of what humans will do. They are afraid of choosing the wrong side. Wells felt frustration rising in his chest. Humans had fought this war to make the galaxy more fair, more just. But fear was making species retreat instead of engage. On Concordia Prime, Maria Santos sat in a conference room that had been built for the old council but was now being used by the provisional government. Around her sat representatives from dozens of species, all arguing. Humans have no right to dictate galactic policy, a Kryn representative snarled. You won a war. That does not make you wise. We are not dictating anything, Maria said patiently. She had been having this same argument for days. We are trying to build a system where everyone has a voice, including you, including the Kryn, including every species, no matter how young or old. But humans have all the military power, a small crystalline being said. How can we trust that you will not use that power the way the council did? Maria took a breath. This was the heart of the problem. Humans had wanted to destroy the council's monopoly on power. But in doing so, they had created their own monopoly. They had not meant to, but intentions did not matter as much as reality. You cannot trust us, Maria said honestly. The room went quiet. You have no reason to trust us based on faith alone, so we will prove ourselves through actions. We will help build this new government, and then we will step back. We will reduce our military presence. We will share our technology with all species equally. Why would you do that? The Kryn representative asked suspiciously. You have won. You have the power. Why give it away? Because power was never the goal, Maria said quietly. Justice was the goal. And you cannot have justice when one species holds all the power. My cousin Thomas died because the council had too much power and used it badly. I will not honor his memory by recreating the same system with humans on top instead of the council. A Xelnari representative, one of the younger ones who had opposed the execution, spoke up. I believe her, he said. Humans could have destroyed us. They could have enslaved us. They could have taken everything. But they did not. They showed remarkable restraint for a species that was seeking revenge. Restraint is not the same as trust, the Kryn said. No, the Xelnari agreed. But it is a start. The discussion continued for hours. Progress was slow, but it was progress. However, not everyone was interested in progress. In a secret facility deep inside a dead moon, Elderstone met with representatives from several council species. These were the hardliners, the ones who believed surrender had been a mistake. The council was weak, Elderstone said, his rocky voice grinding. They gave up without truly fighting. They surrendered our 10,000 years of rule because of one bad day. What would you have had them do? A Xelnari admiral asked. The admiral's colors were dark red, showing anger. We could not win. The humans were too strong. We did not use our strongest weapon, Elderstone said. We have the void engines. We could destroy their homeworld. We could make them pay. The room fell silent. Everyone knew about the void engines, ancient technology from a civilization that had died out long ago. The council had kept 3 of them, hidden away as a final defense. Using the void engines would be genocide, a Kryn general said carefully. Earth has 10 billion humans. We would be killing all of them. They attacked us, Elderstone said. They destroyed our fleets. They humiliated us before the entire galaxy. We have the right to defend ourselves. It is not defense if we attack their homeworld after we have already surrendered, the Xelnari admiral pointed out. It is revenge, and it would turn every species in the galaxy against us. Let them turn against us, Elderstone said. At least we would have our pride. The Kryn general shook his head. Pride is worthless if you are dead, he said. And make no mistake, if we use the void engines on Earth, the humans will retaliate with everything they have. They might not be able to stop the void engine in time, but they will make sure we all die along with them. Perhaps that is acceptable, Elderstone said quietly. Perhaps it is better to die on our feet than live on our knees. You are insane, the Zelnari admiral said, standing up. I came here thinking we would discuss how to negotiate better terms, but you want to start a war we cannot win. I want no part of this. The admiral left. Others followed, but some stayed. Some agreed with Elderstone. Some believed that the council's honor was worth dying for. Over the next weeks, those who stayed began making plans. The first indication that something was wrong came when a human patrol detected unusual energy signatures near the edge of council space. They investigated and found a small fleet of ships, all powered down, floating dark in space. This is Captain Rodriguez of the UES Discovery, the patrol leader said, broadcasting on all frequencies. Unidentified vessels. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. There was no response. Scan them, Rodriguez ordered. The tactical officer worked at his console for a moment, then looked up with confusion. Captain, these ships are old. Really old. They match the design of council ships from about 5,000 years ago. But the power cores are active. And there is something else. There is a massive energy reading from the lead ship. It is unlike anything in our database. Rodriguez felt a cold feeling in his gut. Send a full report to Fleet Command, he said. And keep scanning. I want to know what that energy signature is. Back on Earth, General Wells received the report and immediately called in his science team. What are we looking at? He asked, showing them the scans. Dr. Lisa Yamamoto, the head of the Xenotechnology Division, studied the data for several minutes. Then her face went pale. General, she said quietly, I think this is a void engine. Wells felt his blood run cold. Explain, he said. The council had weapons called void engines, Dr. Yamamoto said. We found references to them in the databases we captured. They were supposed to be able to destroy stars, make them collapse or go nova. We thought they were myths, or that the technology had been lost. But if these scans are accurate, one of those weapons is being moved into position. Position for what? Wells demanded. Dr. Yamamoto pulled up a star chart. Based on the trajectory of those ships, they are heading for the outer edge of this region, she said, pointing. From there, they would have a clear line to... Oh no. What? Wells asked, though he already knew. They would have a clear line to Sol, Dr. Yamamoto said. To Earth. Wells immediately activated the emergency command network. All fleet units. This is General Wells. Extreme threat detected. Unknown forces are moving a potentially planet-killing weapon toward Earth. I need every available ship to intercept. Authorization code Alpha Black 7. Move now. Across human space, ships that had been on patrol or standing guard immediately began accelerating toward the coordinates Wells had transmitted. Within hours, a fleet of over 1,000 human ships was converging on the area, but the ships carrying the void engine had a head start. On the lead ship, Elderstone stood on the command deck. Around him, a crew of true believers worked at ancient consoles, preparing the void engine for activation. How long until we are in range of Sol? Elderstone asked. 6 hours at current speed, the navigation officer replied. And how long to charge the void engine once we are in position? Approximately 2 hours, the weapons officer said. The technology is old. It takes time to build up the necessary power. Elderstone did calculations in his head. The humans would detect them soon if they had not already. The human fleet would come, but if they could get into position and begin charging the weapon, the humans would face an impossible choice. They could attack the ships carrying the void engine, but if they damaged it, the weapon might detonate uncontrollably. It might destroy the ships around it, maybe even cause a chain reaction, or they could try to negotiate, but Elderstone had no intention of negotiating. He had made his choice. The Council's honor would be preserved, even if it meant mutual destruction. Captain Rodriguez and his patrol ships were the first to intercept the convoy. They matched speed with the Council ships, keeping a safe distance. This is Captain Rodriguez. He broadcast again. You are approaching human space without authorization. You are carrying what we believe to be a weapon of mass destruction. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This time, there was a response. Elderstone's face appeared on Rodriguez's screen. Captain Rodriguez, Elderstone said. I am Elderstone of the Council of Ancients. We do not recognize human authority. We do not recognize your claims to this space, and we will not surrender. Elder Stone, Rodriguez said carefully. Whatever you are planning, it is not too late to stop. We can discuss. There is nothing to discuss. Elder Stone interrupted. You humans have destroyed everything the Council built. You have humiliated us. You have ended 10,000 years of order. Now you will learn that such actions have consequences. You are heading toward Earth, Rodriguez said. There are 10 billion people there. Civilians, families, children. You cannot. I can and I will, Elder Stone said. Your General Wells should have thought about the consequences before he attacked us. Now, you will all pay the price for his arrogance. The transmission ended. Rodriguez immediately sent a priority message to Fleet Command. General Wells, this is Captain Rodriguez. I have confirmation. They are targeting Earth with the Void engine. The one in command is Elder Stone. He appears to be completely committed to this course of action. Recommend immediate response. On Earth, Wells received the message. He had hoped it was a bluff. He had hoped they were just trying to scare humanity into giving the Council back some power. But Elder Stone's face had shown no doubt. No hesitation. The old being was willing to die to make his point. Wells made a decision he had hoped never to make. Activate all defensive systems around Sol, he ordered. Every ship, every station, every platform. We are going to throw everything we have at stopping that weapon. Sir, Admiral Chen said quietly. If we attack them and damage the Void engine, it might detonate anyway. I know, Wells said. But if we do nothing, it definitely goes off. At least this way we have a chance. He took a breath. And prepare the countermeasure, he said quietly. Admiral Chen looked at him in shock. Sir, we have never tested the countermeasure at this scale. We do not even know if it will work. Then we are about to find out, Wells said grimly. The countermeasure was humanity's answer to the Void engine. In the months since learning about the ancient weapon, human scientists had been working on a way to stop it. They had a theory. They had run simulations. But they had never actually tested it in real conditions. They were about to test it with Earth's survival hanging in the balance. The human fleet arrived at the convoy's position. Over 2,000 ships surrounded Elder Stone's small group of ancient vessels. The firepower difference was overwhelming. The humans could have destroyed the convoy in seconds, but they could not risk it. Elder Stone, General Wells's voice came over all frequencies. This is your last chance. Surrender the Void engine. Let us disarm it safely. No one has to die today. Elder Stone's response was simple. Humans do not dictate terms to the Council. We are activating the weapon. You have 2 hours to evacuate Earth if you can. Spend your final moments knowing that you brought this on yourselves. The Council ships began to glow with strange energy. The Void engine was powering up. Wells watched the readings spike. How long do we have? He asked his science team. If he is telling the truth about 2 hours, we have that long, Dr. Yamamoto said. But General, we need to move now. We need to get the countermeasure in position. Do it, Wells ordered. From the human fleet, a single small ship detached and began moving toward the convoy. It was barely the size of a shuttle, but it carried technology that represented humanity's best hope of survival. Inside the ship, an AI named Hope piloted toward the Void engine. Hope had been created specifically for this mission. She was not alive in the traditional sense, but she had one purpose: stop the Void engine at any cost. This is Hope. The AI transmitted back to the fleet. Approaching target. Initiating countermeasure in 3, 2, 1. The small ship released a pulse of energy. It was based on the same principles as the Void engine itself, but reversed. Instead of collapsing a star, it was designed to stabilize it, to reinforce the bonds that held matter together instead of tearing them apart. No one knew if it would work. The pulse hit the Void engine, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the readings from Elder Stone's ship began to fluctuate wildly. On the Council ship, alarms screamed. The weapons officer looked at his displays in shock. Elder Stone, something is interfering with the Void engine. The power levels are becoming unstable. Compensate. Elder Stone ordered. I cannot. Whatever the humans are doing, it is countering our weapon. The Void engine is losing coherence. Elder Stone felt rage and despair in equal measure. Even their final weapon, The humans had found a way to stop it. "Increase power," he ordered. "Pour everything we have into the weapon. If it destroys us along with them, so be it." The weapons officer obeyed. The void engine's power levels skyrocketed. The ship began to shake from the energy flowing through it. In her small ship, Hope detected the change. "Countermeasure is working, but they are overloading the weapon," she reported. "If they continue, the void engine will detonate. It will not be strong enough to destroy Sol, but it will destroy everything within 10 light minutes of this position." That included Hope's ship. It included much of the human fleet. It included Elder Stone and everyone with him. Wells made his final decision. "Hope," he said quietly. "Complete the mission." Hope understood. The AI adjusted her countermeasure pulse, increasing it to maximum. She poured every bit of power her small ship had into stopping the void engine. On the Council ship, the void engine's containment field began to collapse. The weapon was tearing itself apart, unable to handle the conflicting energies. "It is going to explode," the weapons officer shouted. Elder Stone watched the readings and felt something almost like peace. He had failed, but at least he had tried. At least the Council's final act would be remembered. The void engine detonated, but not the way Elder Stone expected. Hope's countermeasure had worked. The energy from the void engine, instead of expanding outward in a wave of destruction, collapsed inward. It imploded, creating a brief flash of light and a pulse of radiation. Then it was gone. Elder Stone and his crew died instantly, vaporized by the energies they had tried to control. But the human fleet survived. Sol survived. Earth survived. In the command center on Earth, General Wells watched the readings stabilize. The threat was over. "The void engine is destroyed," Dr. Yamamoto reported quietly. "The countermeasure worked. Hope stopped it." "What about Hope?" Wells asked. There was silence. "Hope was at the epicenter of the implosion," Admiral Chen said softly. "She did not survive." Wells closed his eyes for a moment. "Another sacrifice. Another life given to protect Earth. Make sure Hope is remembered," he said. "She saved 10 billion people today." Across the galaxy, news of the attempted attack spread quickly. The Council's last desperate act. Their final attempt to hurt humanity. And humanity's response. They had stopped it. Not with overwhelming force. Not with revenge. But with science and sacrifice. The species who had been unsure about trusting humans began to reconsider. An AI had died to save Earth. Yes. But the humans could have destroyed the convoy the moment they detected the threat. They could have killed everyone aboard without risk. Instead, they had tried to save everyone, even their enemies. They had failed to save Elder Stone and his crew. But they had tried. That meant something. On Concordia Prime, Maria Santos received word of the attack and its resolution. She stood before the Assembly of Species and spoke. "Today, the last of the old council tried to destroy my homeworld," she said. "They failed. But more importantly, we tried to save them. We tried to find a way where no one had to die. We were not entirely successful, but we tried." She looked around at the gathered representatives. "This is what the new galactic government must be," Maria said. "A place where we try to save everyone, even our enemies. A place where justice does not mean revenge. A place where different species can disagree without resorting to genocide. Can such a place exist?" The Kryn representative asked quietly. "It has to," Maria said simply. "Because the alternative is unthinkable." The assembly was quiet for a long moment. Then, one by one, representatives began to nod. The new order was beginning, built not on fear or power, but on the hope that something better was possible. It would not be easy, but nothing worth doing ever was. 6 months had passed since Elder Stone's death. 6 months since the last desperate attack of the old council. 6 months of building something new. The ruins of Concordia Prime had been rebuilt. The station was no longer a symbol of council authority. Now it was becoming something different. Something that had never existed in the galaxy before. A true democracy. Maria Santos stood in what had once been the council chamber. The high seats where the 5 ancients had looked down on everyone else were gone. In their place was a circular arrangement of seats, all at the same level. No one sat higher than anyone else. No species had authority over the others. Today was the first session of the Galactic Assembly. Representatives from over 800 species filled the chamber. Some were from powerful, ancient civilizations. Others were from young species like humanity. Many were from species that had never had any voice in galactic affairs before. They were all equals here. Maria called the session to order. As the person who had organized the assembly, she had been chosen as the first speaker, but she had made it clear this was a temporary position. In 1 year, there would be elections. Anyone from any species could run. "Welcome," Maria said, her voice amplified through the chamber. "Welcome to the first true galactic assembly. For 10,000 years, this galaxy was ruled by 5 species. Today, we begin something new. Today, we build a government where every voice matters." There was applause, though it sounded strange with so many different species participating. Some clapped. Some made sounds with their vocal organs. Some created light patterns. Some vibrated, but all were showing approval. "The first order of business," Maria continued, "is to approve the new galactic charter. This document has been drafted over the past 6 months by representatives from 200 species. It establishes the basic rights and responsibilities of all galactic civilizations." She brought up the charter on screens throughout the chamber. The first article appeared in 1,000 different languages simultaneously. Article 1, Maria read, "All sentient beings have the right to life, liberty, and self-determination. No species may enslave, genocide, or otherwise destroy another species. Violations of this article will result in intervention by the full assembly." Article 2, "All species have the right to representation in the Galactic Assembly. No species may be excluded based on age, technology level, or location." Article 3, "No single species or group of species may execute a citizen of another species without the consent of that citizen's home government. All criminal justice must respect the sovereignty of individual worlds." This was the Chen Protocol, named for Thomas Chen, the rule that said no one would ever again be executed for breaking a law they did not know existed, or for making an impossible choice in an impossible situation. Maria continued reading through the charter. It covered trade, war, exploration, resource rights, cultural preservation, and dozens of other topics. It was not perfect. It had compromises that made no one completely happy, but it was fair. When she finished, Maria looked out at the assembly. "This charter represents the best thinking of hundreds of species," she said. "It is designed to prevent the abuses of the past, while allowing for the growth and development of all civilizations. The question now is simple. Will you approve it?" The vote took 3 hours. Each species had 1 vote, regardless of size or power. Earth's vote counted the same as the Zelnari vote. The Kryn had the same voice as a species that had only discovered fire 100 years ago. When the count was finished, the results appeared on the screens. 743 species voted in favor, 57 voted against, 20 abstained. The Galactic Charter was approved. The chamber erupted in celebration. Different species had different ways of showing joy, and the combination was almost overwhelming. But through it all, Maria felt tears on her face. They had done it. They had built something better. After the session ended, Maria walked through the halls of Concordia Prime. She needed time to think, time to process what had just happened. She found herself in an observation deck, looking out at the stars. A figure joined her. It was Elder Whisper, the council member who had warned about attacking humanity. "Congratulations," Elder Whisper said quietly. "You have accomplished something remarkable." "We accomplished it," Maria corrected. "This was not just humans. This was everyone working together." Elder Whisper's form flickered. "I wanted to apologize," she said, "for Thomas Chen, for what the council did. It was wrong. I knew it was wrong then, but I did not fight hard enough to stop it." Maria was quiet for a moment. "I appreciate the apology," she said, "but it is not me you should apologize to. It is Thomas's wife, his daughters, the 47 crew members he saved. They are the ones who lost someone." "I have tried," Elder Whisper said. "I sent messages to his family. They have not responded." "Give them time," Maria said. "They are still grieving. But I think, eventually, they will appreciate knowing that his death led to this, that he did not die for nothing." The two stood in silence for a while, watching the stars. "What happens now?" Elder Whisper asked. "Now the hard part," Maria said. "We have a charter, we have an assembly, but we need to make it work. We need to show that species can cooperate instead of dominate, that justice can exist without tyranny. Do you think it will work? Elder Whisper asked. Maria smiled slightly. It has to, she said, because the alternative is going back to the old way. And none of us want that. On Earth, General Marcus Wells stood in front of a memorial. It had been built in Washington, the capital of the United Earth government. The memorial was a simple black wall with names carved into it, thousands of names. Every human who had died in the war with the Council. At the top of the list was one name in larger letters than the others. Thomas Chen. Below his name was an inscription. He saved 47. They saved billions. Wells placed a hand on the wall. He was retiring today. The war was over. The peace was holding. His job was done. I hope we did right by you, Wells said quietly to the name on the wall. I hope this is what you would have wanted. A voice spoke behind him. He would have wanted everyone to survive. Wells turned. Lisa Chen stood there, Thomas's widow. She looked older than she had 6 months ago. The grief had marked her face, but her eyes were clear. Mrs. Chen, Wells said, I did not expect to see you here. I come here sometimes, Lisa said, to talk to him, to tell him about the girls, to let him know what his death accomplished. She walked up to the wall and placed her own hand on Thomas's name. I was angry at you for a long time, Lisa said. Angry that you used his death as an excuse for war. Angry that you turned him into a symbol. I understand, Wells said. I would be angry too, but I am not angry anymore, Lisa continued, because I realized something. Thomas died trying to save people, and you used his death to save even more people, not just humans. Everyone. That is what he would have wanted. Wells felt something loosen in his chest. He had carried guilt for 6 months, wondering if he had done the right thing, wondering if using Thomas Chen's execution as a rallying cry had been honorable or exploitative. Thank you, he said quietly. Lisa looked at him. What will you do now? She asked. Now that you are retiring? Wells smiled slightly. I am going to teach, he said, at the new Galactic Defense Academy. We are training a combined military force. Ships and soldiers from 100 different species, all working together to protect the galaxy. That sounds like Thomas, Lisa said. He always believed in cooperation, in different people working together toward a common goal. What about you? Wells asked. What will you do? Lisa was quiet for a moment. I am going back to school, she said, to study xenodiplomacy. The girls are older now. They do not need me as much, and I think I can help. I can make sure what happened to Thomas never happens to anyone else. Wells nodded. It was fitting. The widow of the man whose death started the revolution would help build the peace. They stood together for a while. Two people who had been changed by the same tragedy, looking at the name on the wall. Across the galaxy, the changes continued. The Zelnari homeworld had transformed. The old temples and palaces that had symbolized council authority were being converted to museums and schools. The younger generation of Zelnari was embracing the new order. They had seen how the old ways led to disaster. Elder Silver herself had retired. She spent her days teaching history at a university, warning young Zelnari about the dangers of pride and inflexibility. On the Kryn homeworld, something even more remarkable was happening. The warrior culture that had defined the Kryn for millennia was changing. They still valued strength and courage, but now they channeled it differently. Commander Zhal, who had surrendered Fortress Gamma, had become a leading advocate for the new Galactic Defense Force. He argued that true warriors protected the weak, not just fought the strong. His words were controversial among traditional Kryn, but the young listened. The aquatic species of Deephold were thriving. Elder Deep had used his influence to push for environmental protection laws in the new Galactic Charter. Now dozens of species were working together to clean up polluted worlds and restore damaged ecosystems. Even the Threx Empire, which had tried to exploit the chaos after the Council fell, had been brought into line, not by military force, but by economic pressure and diplomatic isolation. The other species had learned that cooperation was more powerful than conquest. Humanity's role in all of this was carefully balanced. General Wells had kept his promise. Human military forces were being reduced. Human technology was being shared. Humans were not trying to replace the Council as galactic rulers, but they were not entirely stepping back either. They maintained enough strength to defend themselves and to help enforce the decisions of the Galactic Assembly. They were a stabilizing force, not a dominant one. 1 year after the first Galactic Assembly session, elections were held for the position of Assembly Speaker. Maria Santos declined to run. She had done her part in building the new order. Now it was time for someone else to lead. The election had 12 candidates from 8 different species. The campaign was sometimes contentious. Species had different ideas about how the assembly should be run, but the disagreements were settled with debate and votes, not weapons. The winner was a Zelnari diplomat named Venka. She was young by her species standards, only 200 years old. But she had a vision for the galaxy that appealed to many species. "We must remember," Venka said in her acceptance speech, "that this assembly exists because we failed, because the old council valued law over justice, because we forgot that the purpose of government is to serve people, not to rule them. We must never forget that lesson." She paused, and her colors shifted to a respectful silver. "We must never forget Thomas Chen," Venka said, "a human who died because he chose to save lives. His death was unjust, but his legacy is this assembly. His legacy is a galaxy where such injustice can never happen again." The chamber was silent for a moment. Then, from the human delegation, someone started clapping. Others joined. Soon the entire assembly was showing respect in their various ways. In a house in California, Lisa Chen watched the ceremony with her daughters. Jennifer was 16 now, preparing to apply to the Galactic Defense Academy. Sarah was 13, already showing an interest in xenobiology. "Dad would have liked this," Jennifer said quietly. "He would have," Lisa agreed. "He always believed the galaxy could be better. He just never got to see it." "But we did," Sarah said. "We got to see it because of him." Lisa put her arms around her daughters. They sat together, watching as the galaxy her husband had died to change continued to grow and evolve. On Concordia Prime, in a small garden that had been created in the rebuilt station, there was a memorial. It was simple, a stone with names carved into it. Thomas Chen's name was at the top. Below it were the names of everyone who had died in the war that followed. Humans, yes, but also Zelnari, Kryn, Deephold citizens, and others. At the bottom of the memorial was an inscription in 100 languages. "They died so that the galaxy could be reborn. Let us honor them by being worthy of their sacrifice." End quote. Maria Santos visited the memorial often. Today, she was not alone. General Wells was there, having come to Concordia Prime for a conference. Elder Whisper had materialized nearby. Admiral Chen stood a respectful distance away. "Do you think we succeeded?" Wells asked quietly. "Do you think we built something worth all the death and pain?" Maria looked at the names on the memorial. "Ask me in 100 years, she said. "Right now, we have built a foundation. Whether it stands or falls will depend on what we build on top of it." "Fair enough," Wells said. Elder Whisper spoke, her voice like wind through leaves. "I have a vision," she said. "Not a prophecy, just a hope. I see a galaxy, 1,000 years from now. A galaxy where species work together, where young civilizations are welcomed and taught instead of controlled, where conflicts are resolved through discussion instead of war." "Can such a galaxy exist?" Admiral Chen asked. "It can if we make it exist," Maria said. "That is the point of all this. The galaxy is not some force of nature that we have to accept as it is. We can shape it. We can make it better." She smiled slightly. Thomas Chen understood that. He saw an impossible situation and he changed it. He broke a sacred law to save lives because he understood that laws are supposed to serve people, not the other way around. The council killed him for that understanding. And in doing so, they proved him right. Wells nodded slowly. "The galaxy before was broken," he said. "We broke it more completely. But sometimes you have to break something before you can fix it properly. And now we are fixing it," Admiral Chen said. "Not perfectly, not quickly, but we are trying." The four stood together in silence for a while. They were an unlikely group. A human ambassador, a human general, a human admiral, and a being from one of the oldest species in the galaxy. But they were united by a common purpose: building a better galaxy. On Earth, in the United Earth Government's main chamber, a new tradition had started. Every session began with a moment of silence for Thomas Chen. a reminder of why they fought, why they built, why they tried. And in every human ship, every human station, every human colony, there was a picture of Thomas Chen in a place of honor, not as a warrior, not as a hero, but as an engineer, a father, a husband, a good man who made an impossible choice and paid the ultimate price. His death had sparked a revolution, but more importantly, it had sparked a conversation, a galaxy-wide discussion about justice and fairness and what it meant to be civilized. That conversation was still happening. It would continue for years, decades, centuries. There would be setbacks. There would be conflicts. Some species would resist change. Some would try to return to the old ways. But the foundation had been laid. The Galactic Assembly existed. The Charter was approved. Species were learning to work together instead of simply coexisting. It was not perfect. It never would be perfect. But it was better. And better was enough. 10 years after Thomas Chen's execution, on the anniversary of that day, a ceremony was held on Concordia Prime. Representatives from every member species of the Galactic Assembly attended. They gathered at the Memorial Garden. Venka, still serving as Assembly Speaker, gave a speech. 10 years ago, she said, the old council made a terrible mistake. They valued their law more than justice. They valued their pride more than life. They killed a good man to make a point. She paused. But his death was not the end of his story. It was the beginning. Thomas Chen, in dying, showed us what we had become. And in seeing what we had become, we chose to change. Venka looked around at the assembled representatives. We are not perfect, she said. We still make mistakes. We still have conflicts. But we are better than we were. We are more just, more fair, more willing to listen to each other. She gestured to the memorial. Thomas Chen saved 47 people by breaking a law. We honor him not by following all laws blindly, but by making sure our laws are worth following. By making sure justice and law are the same thing, not opposites. The ceremony continued for hours. Different species shared their memories of the revolution. They talked about what had changed, what had improved, what still needed work, and at the end, they all stood together in a moment of silence, honoring the man who had died to save his crew, honoring all those who had died in the war that followed, honoring the hope that their deaths had meaning. In California, Lisa Chen stood in her backyard with her daughters. They were watching the ceremony on a screen. When the moment of silence came, they bowed their heads. I am proud of him, Lisa said quietly. Not because he became a symbol, not because his death changed the galaxy, but because he was true to himself. He saw people dying and he saved them. That is who he was. That is who he always was. We are proud too, Jennifer said. She was at the Defense Academy now, training to serve on one of the new joint species ships. I am writing a paper about him, Sarah added, for my xenobiology class, about how his choice showed the fundamental similarity between all species. We all value life. We all protect our own. That is universal. Lisa smiled through tears. He would have liked that, she said. He always said that despite our differences, we were all more alike than we were different. That is why he believed we could all get along if we just tried. The ceremony ended. The screen went dark, but the 3 Chen women stood together for a while longer, thinking about the husband and father they had lost. He had been gone for 10 years, but his impact would last forever. The galaxy had burned, the old order had fallen, and from the ashes, something new had grown, something better, something worth the terrible price that had been paid. As the stars turned and civilizations rose and fell, the Galactic Assembly continued its work, building, growing, learning, making mistakes, and correcting them, facing new challenges and finding new solutions. And through it all, they remembered. They remembered Thomas Chen. They remembered the day the Council executed a human. They remembered the day the galaxy started burning. And they remembered the lesson learned in fire and blood and sacrifice. That justice is not something given by the powerful to the weak. It is something built by everyone, for everyone. It requires constant work, constant vigilance, constant willingness to do what is right even when it is hard. Thomas Chen had understood that. He had lived it. He had died for it. And now, 10 billion beings across 1,000 worlds were trying to live up to his example. The galaxy was not perfect. It never would be. but it was trying. And in the end, that was the best anyone could do. Try, build, hope, and never, ever forget the price that freedom and justice demand. The memorial garden on Concordia Prime stood quiet under alien stars. The names carved in stone remained unchanged, a testament to sacrifice, a reminder of cost, a promise for the future. And in the garden, new flowers were blooming, planted by members of a dozen different species, each flower different, each beautiful in its own way, but all growing together, nourished by the same soil, reaching toward the same stars. It was a small thing, a symbol, but symbols mattered. They were proof that even in darkness, even in tragedy, even in the ashes of everything that had been burned away, life could return, beauty could grow, hope could survive. The galaxy had learned its lesson, the hard way, the painful way, but it had learned, and Thomas Chen, who had never sought to be a hero, who had just wanted to save his crew and go home to his family, had become the teacher of that lesson, not through his life, but through his death, not through his words, but through his actions, not through seeking glory, but through doing what was right. The galaxy would remember, and remembering, it would try to be better. That was all anyone could ask. That was everything.